everyone, it's Justine and I'm back. So I've been off the last couple of weeks because I've been moving and I'm still waiting for most of my craft stuff to arrive, but I did smuggle a little bit with me in my suitcase in order to create a couple of cards in the meantime. So I'm back to my regular posting and you can expect lots of videos coming up in the next couple of weeks. So let's get started on creating this card. And I'm going to start off with a card base. It measures 11 by 4¼ inches, and you can see that I folded it over on the long side at 5½ inches to create a top folding card, which is what I usually do in 90% of my cards. I'm going to be doing some masking today. So pretty much I am down to just distress inks and a couple of tools and a couple of stamps that I've ordered in the last couple of weeks. And so those are all the supplies I have at the moment. So forgive me, I'm going to try and be as creative as possible with as little as possible. So I am lining up my card. You can see my card is lined up on the left side with the corners of my grid, and I'm lining up my 3M masking tape the same way. So I'm using my grid lines to help me get straight lines. I find this the easiest way. It's a lot easier than using a ruler to get straight lines. I'm going to be using my distress inks, so I want to get out my craft mat, which you can see I've cut down to quite a smaller size than it usually comes in, just because it got a little torn up. And I'm going to begin by distress inking. Now the three colors that I am choosing are two colors of which of the three don't usually blend together very well. So that is Wilted Violet and Carved Pumpkins. So you have to be really careful with picking your colors that they blend nicely together, or you have to do this technique, and I'm going to show you how to do that if they don't blend well together. So I'm going to begin by putting my card up a little higher up so I have a lot of craft mat to work on. The craft mat gives me a slick surface, and the slick surface allows my tool to move really nicely in a circular motion, and I'm going to go up into my card, and I'm going to have to be careful with that masking tape because it's not very far down, that it doesn't peel up. So I'm starting off with the Wilted Violet. You can see I'm doing this in real time at the moment, so you can see the movements of my hand. I'm putting no pressure on my hand, and you can see that I start on the craft mat and work my way into the card. Now I've said these tips a million times before in my videos, so I apologize for always repeating myself, but blending takes practice, and these tips will definitely help you get to the perfection a lot quicker with your practicing. So I'm just moving up. I'm going to go about 1/3 of the way up the card with the Wilted Violet, and I'm just going to go into a little bit faster mode for time purposes. So I'm going to slow down once I get to the orange. Now, as I mentioned before, the Wilted Violet and the Carved Pumpkin are two colors that don't blend really well together. It's not that seamless blend because the color that they create is almost like a dull gray color when you blend the two together. So one important thing when doing this is to clean off your craft mat with a baby wipe and then dry it. Because the two colors don't blend well together to begin with, you don't want to be picking up the purple on your brush when you go switch to the orange sponge. Now I'm switched to my sponge, so I'm using a new sponge with the Carved Pumpkin, and I'm going to go in now. And what I'm going to do is, instead of going in on top of the purple, which I'll do usually with a nice blended color, is I'm going to come in from the side, and I'm going to kind of avoid going straight into that purple right away. I want to darken up my paper first before touching the purple. Now you saw my card in the beginning of the video, and you'll see that I'm actually stamping an image over top. So I'm not too concerned if the two do blend together a little bit to create sort of a, I guess you could quote unquote ugly color, or a muddy color, because it's not going to be too bad. So you can see I'm still avoiding the purple. I'm going in from the sides with the orange, darkening that up, and then I'm slowly going in with a little bit of ink color into the purple. Now I'm not going to do this overwhelmingly. I don't want to add a lot of color, but I don't want there to be white space or a clear divide between the two colors. So I am going over it just slightly, but I'm not adding too much color. So you can see they are touching, but there's very little that are actually blending together. Because I'm stamping over top of those two colors, it's going to create a distraction anyway, and you won't notice that little layer of muddy color. Now Crushed Olive, which is the next color that I'm going to be using, blends extremely well with the Carved Pumpkin. So I'm not too concerned about cleaning my craft mat at the moment, as well as the fact that I'm starting up in a different area, so I won't be picking up too much of that color. These two colors, I was actually surprised. Sometimes you get a surprise when you blend that these two colors blend really nicely together. I'm not someone who's extremely artistic and knows the color wheel and knows everything about blending, so it was a really nice surprise to see that these two colors blended phenomenally. It's definitely going to be two colors that I'll use to blend a little bit more often, especially with fall cards or Halloween cards. I really like the look of this olive color because it kind of reminds me of that green that you'll see in the fall, where it's just in that transition phase of falling off or turning color. So I'm just going to finish up my blending, and I hope my tips and tricks for blending colors that are not necessarily blendable are helpful to you when you're blending your card, especially when you want to get a certain look for a certain season or occasion. I'm going to put all my sponges back into my mini distress inks to go back in their packaging, and I'm going to take my card off of the craft mat and clean my craft mat. That's really important, so it's ready to use for next time. And then I'm going to do the magic reveal, which is my favorite part about masking, is taking off this tape to see what I have. Now, if you're a little bit of a messy blender, I would suggest adding more layers of tape so that you don't have any of the white card exposed, because you can often get some color in the white area and then it kind of ruins your card. So if this is too little of the masking tape, feel free to add more and cover up your entire card so you don't have to worry about fingerprints and things like that. So that's that. It doesn't look, in my opinion, too spectacular at the moment, but I personally think that once you add the stamp, it really pulls everything together. For this card today, I'm going to be using two stamps from So Susie Stamps called Halloween Tree and Be Scary. I'll have the links below in the video description as well as on my blog if you're interested. I just checked the stock levels. There are a few left of these trees and there are quite a few left of the sentiments, so they are in stock at the moment, so that's really exciting. And I promise you they won't be in stock long after this video is made, so if you really want one after you watch this video, go check it out right away. So now I've just stamped this twice using my Misty. You can see because of my Misty and the placement, I can stamp in the exact same area more than once to darken up the image, which I think gives a nice background and a nice impression on the card. Now for the Eat, Drink, and Be Scary. At this point I've invested a lot of time in my card, so I don't want this to be ruined by a sentiment that is crooked or in the wrong spot. So what I'm doing is I'm actually grabbing the packaging that the stamp came in, the Eat, Drink, and Be Scary, and I'm attaching it to my card. I'm putting it on top of my card. So it's creating sort of a barrier between my card and the sentiment and the stamp. So what I'm doing is I'm going to be inking up the sentiment, and I'm going to stamp it on top of the plastic. Now this ensures that I can take off the plastic and I can also see actually this stamp is straight. It's in the exact spot that I want it. So that's really great, and I think that's really important when you've already invested so much time to just use a little transparency paper or some packaging just to make sure that that sentiment is in the right place, because with cling stamps you can't see through them, so it can be a little bit more difficult to line them up. So that's a nice little handy trick if you need to stamp straight. Lastly, I just wanted to add some embellishments to the card, and I'm going to be using a couple of Nouveau drops. Now the Nouveau drops that I'm using are actually 3 different kinds of Nouveau drops, I guess you could say. So the purple ones I'm using are the glitter drops. Those are Purple Rain. And then the orange ones are crystal drops, and these are gloss and ripened pumpkin. So these ones are the gloss ones, so those are your standard enamel. And then the other ones I'm using are also called crystal drops, and these are called bottle green, but they have more of a metallic appearance to them. So there's lots of different possibilities with these Nouveau drops and so many different colors available, and I really think that they're a time saver and absolutely amazing. So I hope you enjoyed today's card tutorial. Here are a couple last minute photos of the card that you can see in some natural light. And all the supplies used are listed below in the video description or on my blog. You can click to visit my blog up at the top there. And I have 2 videos that feature the exact same technique, masking with distress inks, but just with different colors if you want to check those out. Or you can click the subscribe button to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.